Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Impress with a video on me and my brother, or my brother and I. That is proper English, but me and my brother sounds more catchy. What is this about? Well, it is about the brothers Vasily and Mikhail Platov. And here we have them, Vasily on the left and Mikhail on the right. The Platov brothers Vasily and Mikhail Nikolaevich composed over 200 endgame studies, most of them together, and they are considered the founders of the modern endgame study school. Vasily was born in Riga, which is now Latvia, in 1881 and passed away in Moscow in 1952. He was a doctor by profession and the editor of the study column of the Russian Soviet magazine 64. His brother Mikhail was 2 years younger, also born in Riga, the city of Mishatal, and passed away in Kargopol in 1938, and he was an engineer. He passed away in a Soviet camp because allegedly he had said something challenging about Stalin, and in those days you were put in a camp for that. And Mikhail died in that camp, which was a real tragedy. In this video, I'm going to show you 3 endgame studies of the Platov brothers, one from Vasily, one from Mikhail, and one that they composed together. Let's start with Vasily. This study was published in the Deutsche Schachzeitung in 1905. It is white to play and draw. White has an extra piece, but how to stop the h-pawn, that seems impossible. But still, white can get a draw out of this game. The first move is knight f5 to h4, and that is now threatening bishop f3. That will be check and controlling the h1 square. So promotion here does not work because of that move, bishop f3 check, queen takes, knight takes, king takes, and king d7, taking that last pawn off the board, and this game is a draw. So after knight h4, you have to do something differently. But of course you can take the knight, bishop takes h4 is possible, yes indeed. Then white plays bishop takes d7, and that move was not possible a move ago as there was a knight on f5. And now white's threat is bishop c6. So again, if black promotes, then we have that skewer winning the queen and gaining that draw for white. So again, you can't promote, bishop c6 check, and we take the new queen. So what to do after bishop takes d7? That threat is bishop c6, so we can play king d5, so that bishop c6 is not possible. But then white plays bishop c8, luring the king to c6, and we'll see in a minute why that is important. Again, promotion doesn't make sense because of bishop b7 check, picking up the queen. So king c6 is the move here from black to take that skewer out of the position, and now we have bishop g4, and we are threatening bishop f3 again. So it is really time for black to promote here. h1 queen seems logical, but bishop f3 check comes anyway. Even though that bishop can be taken, there really is no other option. If you take the pawn on c5, then your queen is gone again. So after bishop f3 check, you have to take that bishop, and this is a very beautiful and unusual stalemate. Suddenly the king on e8 has no squares. These are taken away by the bishop, and the new queen is taking the f-file away, and the king the d7 square. What a stalemate. Very beautiful. One last thing we have to look at, after bishop g4, we don't have to promote to a queen, we can also promote to a bishop, but this is 2 bishops against 1, and that is a theoretical draw. Once more the final position, the stalemate, very beautiful. Vasily Platov, 1905. Let's now look at a composition from his brother Mikhail. And we have this position also published in 1905 in the Duna Zeitung. Composed by Mikhail Platov, white to play and make a draw, which does not look an easy task at all. White is material down, and his prized possession, the g7 pawn, is controlled by the queen. So what to do? If you want to look for yourself, put the video on pause. The first move is not easy at all. It is rook c2 to g2, and this is the only way to make a draw. Putting that rook en prise there on g2, how on earth can that be the solution? Well, let's have a look. The point is that white now threatens to promote the pawn. But what if we play queen g8, or even better, take off that rook? take it off the board? Well, let's look at the queen move first and leave that capture of the rook till the end. We're saving the best for last. So let's play queen g8 to make sure that pawn doesn't promote. Well, then white will get a draw with a nice move, rook d8, attacking the queen. You really have to take that rook, and now the g8 square is available, so we can promote our pawn to queen. Queen takes, rook takes, black can still try to win with f2, and it looks like black will win after all, as the f-pawn looks unstoppable. But white can save the day with a very nice stalemate trick, which is rook g4 check. Very nice. If you take the rook, it is stalemate, the king has no squares. This stalemate is not as beautiful as the one that we just saw in Vasily's composition, but it's still very nice. So we cannot take that rook, and if we flee with the king, then there is rook takes f4, and white will take the f-pawn on the next move and will have his hard-fought draw. Very nice. Now let's get back to the start. We played rook g2, and we just looked at the variation with queen g8. But what if we take that rook? F takes g2. Seems to make a lot of sense, and it looks absolutely hopeless for white. He has just given away a rook, but look at this move. Rook d3 to h3, check. Okay, it is check. We go to g4, and now we promote. It is check, and the queen is attacked, so we have to take the new queen. And now we have rook g3 check with a skewer. Yes, we can take that rook, and we're going to see what happens then. But let's first see what happens after king f5, out of the check. Then the queen on g8 is taken, and this game will end in a draw. The bishop on a8 is now attacked, so we're going to save the bishop. Rook takes g2, sacrificing that rook. Bishop takes, and this king and pawn endgame is a draw. Let's have a look. King g4, king f2, very elementary draw, f3, and now very important that you go to f1 with the king. Know your basic endgames. King g3, king g1, check, king f1, and this is stalemate and a draw. But of course, the variation we have to look at after rook g3 check is to take that rook, f takes g3 check. But now the king goes to g1, and the white king is now stalemated, but it is black to move. But as we can quickly see, whatever black does, he cannot get the king out of his stalemate cage, and this game is a draw. Amazing composition, very surprising rook moves, and then this stalemate that black cannot get white out of. Mikhail Platov, published in the Dunat Zeitung in 1905. Finally, let's look at a study that the two brothers composed together. This study was published in the Rigaer Tageblatt, also in 1905. All three studies are from the same year. A very productive year for these two genius endgame study composers. It is white to play and win. And if we look at the position, then we see that black has a queen for a bishop, although white has a million extra pawns, or to be more exact, white has 4 extra pawns. But how can white win? The first move is c2, c4, check, and now black only has 2 legal moves. If you go to c5, that will lead to a variation we'll see in a minute. So let's look at the other one. King d4 after c4 check. And then we see a very nice move. The only way to win here for white is to play bishop e5 check, giving away that bishop. If we don't take it, if we go to c5, then we get more fireworks. We'll see that in a minute. Let's first look at what happens if we just take off that bishop. Well, then there's a knight fork. Knight f7 check wins the queen. So that bishop sacrifice was not that spectacular after all. Because after king f6, knight takes, white is going to win this game. King g5, for example, knight f7 check. Yes, you can have that h-pawn. But a move like king d3 and white wins with his 3 extra pawns. So more tenacious after bishop e5 check is not to take that bishop, because then we get the knight fork. So king c5 is the only move. But now white insists on giving up his bishop. Bishop d6 check. And if we take it with the queen, then there is a knight fork on b7. King c6, knight takes the queen, king takes, h6, and that pawn cannot be stopped. If after bishop d6 check we take the bishop with the king, then we have that knight f7 check, fork again, king e6, knight takes, and white wins. Which means that after bishop d6 check, we again should not take the bishop, not with the queen, not with the king, but go to d4. That's the only other option. But then the knight comes into action. Knight c6 check, and you have to go to c3. Bishop e5 check, and you have to go to c2. There are no other moves. Knight b4 check. King c1 is forced. And now, again, if you want to put the video on pause, it's not that difficult anymore, but it's very beautiful. Have a look for yourself. The winning move here is bishop f4 check with a bishop fork, threatening to win the queen, and that would win the game. So we have to take the bishop, and then there is a knight fork winning the queen after all. Black dodged many knight forks, but this one he could not dodge. King c2, knight takes f4 with an easy win for white. Vasily and Mikhail Platov composed this gem of an endgame study in 1905. And we saw 3 examples of their work, compositions they made by themselves and as a team. Vasily and Mikhail Platov, they will be famous as long as chess will be played. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up, please subscribe to the Chess to Impress channel, and please leave a comment. I will read them all and I will reply to them all. If you liked the video, it would be great if you could share it on social media by clicking the share button on YouTube. You can find me on Instagram, on Twitter and on Facebook. This is Rick for Chess to Impress. Thank you for watching.